Hey guys, how are you? If you're a fan of Elden Ring and are looking for new adventures that capture the essence of challenging combat, vast world exploration, and immersive narratives, get ready. I've made a list of 10 incredible games that every Elden Ring enthusiast should consider playing. I'm Matthew, and we're starting the list with Dark Souls 3, one of the most renowned games in the Souls series, and without a doubt, one of the titles that every Elden Ring fan should play. Developed by From Software and released in 2016, the game features the action and RPG formula that became famous with the franchise's games. A dark and interconnected world, full of immense challenges, brutal combat, and a narrative told subtly, where the player needs to piece together clues and details to understand the story. The setting and scenarios are incredible, with detailed art that makes the player feel like they are in a true medieval nightmare, which is quite reminiscent of Elden Ring's tone. In terms of gameplay, Dark Souls 3 is very similar to Elden Ring, but with a greater focus on more linear levels. Here, exploration and combat are intense and rewarding, and the difficulty is unforgiving. For Elden Ring fans, the combat style is a point of connection, as both games require precision, patience, and reading enemy movements. The variety of weapons and spells is also similar, allowing the player to shape their character according to their combat style, whether more agile and focused on dodging or heavier, with the use of robust armor and shields. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is one of From Software's most challenging and rewarding games, a treat for Elden Ring fans, despite having a slightly different approach. Instead of the traditional RPG system with deep customization of attributes and classes, Sekiro focuses on a mechanic more centered on direct combat, parries, and rhythm. The protagonist, Wolf, is a samurai in search of revenge and his kidnapped master. Throughout the game, the story unfolds in a dark, feudal Japan, full of mythology and supernatural creatures, with a very dense and unique atmosphere. Unlike Elden Ring, which gives the player more freedom, Sekiro is more linear and requires a lot of precision in battles. The parry system is one of the key elements of the game, instead of a simple button to dodge. The posture mechanic is fundamental, as the main way to defeat enemies is by breaking their posture through parries and quick attacks. This creates an extremely intense and satisfying combat dynamic, which many Elden Ring players may find very interesting, as it combines a sense of immersive challenge with a clear progression of skill. In addition, Sekiro also explores a more engaging and focused narrative, something that Elden Ring left aside in favor of freedom of exploration and environmental storytelling. In Sekiro, the plot is much more direct, and the development of Wolf, his allies, and enemies is of utmost importance. Bloodborne is one of From Software's most iconic games and, without a doubt, a must-have title for any Elden Ring fan. Released in 2015 for the PlayStation 4, it transports the player to the Gothic city of Yharnam, a land infested with supernatural horrors and grotesque monsters. The visual design of Bloodborne is a perfect blend of cosmic and gothic horror, with a dark atmosphere that makes you always feel at risk, immersed in a world where death is inevitable. And often, the only answer is to fight. Combat in Bloodborne is one of the game's strongest points and one of the biggest draws for Elden Ring fans. Unlike the games in the Souls series where defense with shields and caution are key, in Bloodborne the pace is much more aggressive. The rally system encourages players to attack after being hit, recovering a fraction of the lost health. This creates dynamic gameplay where offense is vital, allowing for a sense of speed and fluidity in combat that is quite different from Software's previous experiences. Exploration in Bloodborne is also remarkable. Yharnam and its surroundings are an interconnected maze of narrow streets, cemeteries, churches, and decaying castles. The map design is ingenious, with shortcuts and secrets that maintain the feeling of constant discovery, something that Elden Ring fans will certainly appreciate, given the open and layered world of the latest game. At every corner, the player finds something new, be it a challenging enemy or a new mystery, always keeping the tension high. Nioh 2 is a game that mixes intense combat with RPG elements and a rich setting in feudal Japan. Released by Team Ninja, it is the sequel to the acclaimed Nioh and takes players on an immersive journey through medieval Japan, with mythology, samurai, and monsters inspired by Japanese legends. Like Elden Ring, the game relies on an open and interconnected world where exploration is essential for progression. The big difference is that Nioh 2 focuses more on a frantic and technical combat style, with a challenging learning curve, something that attracts Souls-like fans who appreciate challenging battles. One of the characteristics that will attract Elden Ring fans is the depth in combat. In Nioh 2, you have several ways to fight, from using swords to techniques with supernatural powers, thanks to the ability to transform into yokai, spirits and demons from Japanese mythology. Each transformation has different forms of combat and skills that are essential to adapt to different types of enemies. The key system also has a great similarity to Elden Ring's stamina management, making the combat rhythm a tense dance between attack and defense. Another point in common with Elden Ring is the punitive difficulty and the progression system. Just like in Elden Ring, death is a crucial element and you will die many times. However, each failure is a learning experience, whether in combat mechanics, positioning, or enemy attack patterns. Nioh 2 requires precision, planning, and adaptation, something that makes any Souls-like fan's heart beat faster.
Thought you were one of them tyrant vermin. They're everywhere. There's no way I'm ever gonna get out of here. Here, take this and do something about them.
GreedFall is an action RPG set in a fantasy world, with elements of exploration and combat that can greatly please Elden Ring fans. Developed by Spiders, the game takes place on a mysterious island called Tir, where the player controls Desarde, a nobleman in search of a cure for a disease that is devastating the continent. The plot mixes with a narrative of colonization and conflicts between factions, which creates a scenario filled with moral choices and consequences, something that resembles the complex interactions in Elden Ring. One of the aspects that most draws attention to GreedFall is its combat, which requires both skill and strategy. Unlike the frantic combat of Elden Ring, GreedFall adopts a more tactical approach, where you can pause the action to select skills, create potions, or use spells. But the difficulty does not disappoint. Enemies can be challenging and require the player to think about how to use their environment and skills effectively, which creates a sense of tension and reward very similar to that of Elden Ring. In addition, the game has an open world, full of secrets, side missions, and immersion in the fantasy setting, which is also a great attraction for those who enjoy exploring the vast universe of Elden Ring. Tir is a place with different factions in conflict, and you can choose your side or try to manipulate events in your favor. Code Vein is a third-person action RPG developed and published by Bandai Namco, released in 2019 for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Often called Anime Souls, the game combines elements of Souls-like games such as Dark Souls and Bloodborne, with an anime aesthetic and a more direct narrative. The story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world devastated by a mysterious disaster, where players control a revenant, a vampire with amnesia who needs blood to survive, and avoid turning into a lost, a creature devoid of humanity. The plot explores themes of survival, memory, and sacrifice, with well-produced cutscenes and dubbing in Japanese or English, accompanied by subtitles. The narrative, although not as deep as that of Elden Ring, is engaging with about 40 hours of campaign and stands out for optional memories that deepen the characters. Code Vein's gameplay is inspired by Souls-like, but with adjustments that make it more accessible. Combat is fast, with a vast arsenal of weapons, equipment, and unlockable skills called blood codes, which function as interchangeable classes, allowing you to switch playstyles, warrior, mage, shooter, at any time. Elden Ring fans should consider Code Vein for its familiarity with the Souls-like genre, but with a unique touch that sets it apart. Character customization is one of the highlights of the game. Remnant from the Ashes is an action and survival game with a Souls-like feel, which mixes challenging combat mechanics, exploration, and an engaging narrative, all in a post-apocalyptic universe. The game's great attraction for Elden Ring fans lies in its unique approach to world design. Like the From Software title, Remnant offers vast and mysterious areas filled with powerful enemies and unpredictable encounters, with an emphasis on battles against grandiose bosses. In addition, the exploration and level of difficulty of the game require patience, strategy, and precision in combat, characteristics that any Elden Ring fan will recognize and admire. The combat system is one of the game's greatest strengths, being much more dynamic and focused on the use of firearms, something that moves away from the typical melee combat of Elden Ring. However, it maintains a high difficulty, where each mistake can be fatal, and strategic positioning is essential. The exchange between different types of weapons, modifications, and skills creates a unique tactical experience, requiring adaptation to each new situation. Players need to explore and improve their equipment constantly to prepare for the game's most difficult challenges. Another aspect that attracts Elden Ring fans is the roguelike factor present in From the Ashes. The game has a structure of procedurally generated worlds, which means that each new session can have a different configuration of enemies, areas, and challenges. Thymesia is an action and RPG game developed by Overborder Studio that is strongly inspired by the Souls-like formula, which makes it an excellent choice for Elden Ring fans. The title mixes brutal combat and an engaging narrative with a dark atmosphere and a world full of mysteries, characteristics that are also striking in Elden Ring. Thymesia's apocalyptic setting, with diseases and monsters, provides a tense and challenging experience that resonates with Souls and Elden Ring fans. Thymesia's combat system is one of its biggest attractions, being extremely fluid and fast, but also challenging. The game differentiates itself with the use of plagues as a central mechanic. The player can steal and use enemy abilities to strengthen themselves, creating a unique dynamic of adaptation and exploration. This fast and demanding combat requires a combination of quick reflexes, strategies, and learning patterns, just like in Elden Ring, where it is necessary to master the perfect timing for attacks and defenses. The exploration of Thymesia's world also presents characteristics similar to From Software games. The game's map is non-linear, with interconnected areas full of secrets, and the game's difficulty increases as the player progresses, always challenging the player's patience and skill. As in Elden Ring, where you need to orient yourself through experience, in Thymesia, the exploration and discovery of new locations are rewarded with powerful items, weapons, and new challenges. Demon's Souls Remake is a masterpiece by Bluepoint Games, which not only rescues the original classic from 2009, but improves it in every imaginable aspect, from stunning graphics to refined gameplay. For Elden Ring fans, this game offers an intimately familiar experience, with a challenging combat system, a dark atmosphere, and a subtly intertwined narrative, without exaggeration. Just like in Elden Ring, you will be placed in a vast and dangerous world where every mistake can be fatal, and progress is achieved through perseverance and skill. The gameplay of Demon's Souls Remake has a meticulous feel, where each enemy and each boss are true tests of patience and skill. The combat, although more rigid compared to Elden Ring, offers a sense of immersion that challenges players to understand the mechanics of each weapon, the speed of enemies, and the right time to attack or defend. The character evolution system is also similar, with an attribute system that directly affects your approach to combat and choices during exploration. The remake brought a significant improvement in graphics, making the environments and enemies more alive and detailed than ever. The level design is one of the greatest qualities, with interconnected areas and secrets to be discovered at every corner, which recalls the complexity of Elden Ring. Elden Ring, with its open-world exploration and challenging combat, has attracted many fans to the Soulsborne formula. For those who enjoyed the Elden Ring experience, getting to know Dark Souls Remastered can be an interesting journey. This game, originally released in 2011 and remastered in 2018, is the basis that inspired many of the elements seen in later games, including Elden Ring itself. The exploration of Lordran, an interconnected world where areas connect in surprising ways, is one of the game's strengths. There is no map to guide the player, which encourages memorization of the environment and the gradual discovery of new paths and secrets, an approach that From Software has maintained in its subsequent productions. The combat system in Dark Souls Remastered is deliberate and requires patience. Each attack, defense, and dodge must be executed with precision. Enemies are not mere obstacles. Many of them have distinct attack patterns that require the player's attention and time to react. Stamina management is crucial, and each action consumes part of it, forcing strategic decisions about when to attack, defend, or move away. Although the pace is slower than that of Elden Ring, mastering this combat will reward the player with a sense of accomplishment with each challenge overcome. The narrative in Dark Souls Remastered is presented in a fragmented way, using item descriptions, dialogues with enigmatic characters, and the environmental design itself to build its universe. Well, that was the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you next time.
Who would one day be born amongst them. Lord Wind resisted the course of nature. So that you may link the fire, cast away the dark, and undo the curse of the undead. And may the age of fire perpetuate.